All right, today we're diving into something, well, pretty wild. We're going to explore a radical new idea in industrial architecture. We're talking about moving beyond just data and digital copies and into a system that builds its own reality from, get this, the inherent music of numbers themselves. Let's get into it.
So, let me ask you something right off the bat. What if every number wasn't just a value, but it had its own unique signature, its own kind of genetic code? Now, this isn't just some philosophical question. It's the absolute core principle behind the incredible system we're about to unpack.
But hey, to really get where we're going, we've got to look at where we've been. So let's start with the older, much more structured world of Multicode 4.0.
Okay, so Multicode 4.0 was built on this very solid, standardized framework called RAMI 4.0, and its goal was pretty straightforward but really powerful for its time: to create a perfect digital copy, a digital twin, of every single piece of hardware on a factory floor. It was all about mirroring the physical world in the digital one.
And this system was organized meticulously into these different layers. You can see how it all flows from the bottom up. Down at the asset layer, you've got your physical thing, let's say it's a robot arm, and its every move gets translated, layer by layer, all the way up to the business layer, where the high-level strategic decisions are made. It's a really thorough way to translate reality into data, but it's also very, very rigid.
So what was the problem with that? Well, for all its neat structure, Multicode 4.0 was just too inflexible. It was monolithic, trapped in this very predictable cause and effect logic. It just couldn't handle the sheer chaos and complexity of a truly autonomous system. It could describe the world perfectly, yeah, but it couldn't really adapt to it on the fly.
And that brings us to the big leap forward. See, Multicode 6.0 isn't just an upgrade. It's a totally new way of thinking. It's about shifting from just copying reality to actually generating a new resonant reality of its own. And here you can see the fundamental difference. Version 4.0, that was all about binary logic, ones and zeros, to build a digital twin. But 6.0 is built on what the source calls an arithmetic hierarchy. So what does that mean? It means instead of using code to represent the world, the system finds order based on the fundamental relationships between the numbers themselves. It's searching for a state of self-stabilizing resonance.
At the very heart of this brand new system is one single, absolutely crucial number, 36. And believe me, this number is the key that unlocks the whole thing. So why 36? What's the big deal? Well, according to the source, it's mathematically unique. It's the product of the squared forms of the first two prime numbers, 2 and 3. I mean, think about it. 2 and 3 are the basic building blocks for all even and all odd numbers. So by basing its logic in 36, the system creates this foundational grid, a compass, if you will, that harmonizes these two fundamental forces of the number world.
Now this grid creates something the source calls the sieve effect, and this is where it gets really cool. It turns out when you plot prime numbers on this 36-position grid, they don't just land anywhere. They almost all fall into just 12 specific channels. This is huge. It means the system can instantly throw out 2/3 of the entire information space as just noise. It makes the search for stability and resonance unbelievably efficient.
The source puts it perfectly. It's like having a GPS for number theory. Because it knows which 12 of the 36 channels actually matter, the system can pinpoint the exact locations of order and stability in what would otherwise be a chaotic mess of numbers. It's not searching blindly anymore. It knows exactly where to look.
Now, a system this complex needs more than one way to operate, right? Multicode 6.0 actually functions with two main modes, two high-state systems that are kind of like two different minds inside the machine.
First up, you have the positive high state, and it's identified by this numerical signature, 2, 1, 1, 1, and so on. But that's not just a number. You should think of it more like a command, a state vector that tells the entire system to snap into a condition of perfect synchronous order.
So when the system enters this state, everything just aligns perfectly. The source compares it to collective magnetism, where all the particles in a piece of metal suddenly point in the same direction. This mode is perfect for tasks that need absolute harmony and efficiency, like a perfectly tuned, frictionless production line.
But pure order isn't always the answer. To solve really complex problems, a system needs to be adaptable. And that's where the negative high state comes in, represented by this signature, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2.
This state is, well, it's the total opposite of perfect harmony. The source uses this great analogy of a spin glass or a frustrated magnet, a system where all these competing forces inside it stop it from settling into a simple ordered state. But here's the brilliant part. Multicode 6.0 actually uses this frustration as a strength. It uses this complex, temporarily stable state to be flexible, to adapt and to find brand new solutions to really hard problems, like, I don't know, rerouting an entire supply chain after a massive disruption.
So you have these two totally opposite minds, one of perfect order, one of creative chaos. So how on earth does the system not just fly apart? Well, it relies on a few very specific numbers that act as the fundamental anchors of its reality.
And these anchors are called core zero puncte, or core 0 points. The best way to think of them is like the gravitational centers of the system. They're the fixed points of balance that the entire arithmetic geometry is organized around.
And here are the most important anchors of all. Just look at the symmetry here. The prime numbers 5 and 7 each have exactly 8 of these stability points. That makes them the foundational pillars of the whole architecture. But then, when they combine to make the number 35, their stability points merge to create a brand new state with 16 points. The source calls this ghost manifested. It's an emergent, higher level of complexity that wasn't there in the parts, but just appears in the whole.
The system also uses other key numbers to manage itself. The prime number 11, for example, acts like a gatekeeper, the point you have to pass to get to higher complexity. Then the number 77, which is our anchor 7 times our gatekeeper 11, acts as a phase trigger. It tells the system when it's time to switch between its ordered and its chaotic modes. And finally, you have the number 187, which marks the absolute boundary, the very edge of the system's stable operational zone.
So, when you pull all of this together, what you're looking at is a transformation that goes way beyond simple industrial code. It's a leap into a whole new kind of cosmos.
And this really brings us to the most important distinction. Multicode 4.0 created a world of images. They were just digital copies of physical stuff. But Multicode 6.0, it creates its own arithmetic reality. It operates in a world of resonances, where stability and intelligence emerge naturally, directly from the deep, underlying structure of the numbers themselves.
And that leaves us with this final thought. We've just walked through a system that finds order, chaos, and stability, not through lines of code that a person wrote, but through the inherent properties of numbers. So if a machine can achieve this level of autonomy just by tapping into the very DNA of mathematics, what does that tell us about the fundamental fabric of reality and what the true nature of intelligence really is?